Nimo. We also have Albert Sorry, Upper East Regional Correspondent, who will tell us first-hand information about what has been happening as far as the military's conduct under the national security in Garu and Timpani are concerned. So let's begin right away by beginning to look at the NPP's Congress to elect a flag bearer. And I will begin by going to Ellen Amada, co-communications team of the Bawumia campaign. Thank you very much for making time to join us, madam.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Great. So this morning, you have voted already, or you're about to vote?
Unfortunately for this election, I am not a delegate. You know, last year I stood for National Women's Organizer. I did not win, so I am not a delegate for this particular election.
Right. So what's your role this morning?
My role basically is that I do speak for Dr. Bawumia. I am part of his communications team, and I have been part since he started. I was in the regions with him. I visited 12 regions with him. So I do have first-hand knowledge of how the campaign has been, especially in our regions.
Obviously, it's not been an easy campaign for you. It was predicted, pollsters have all forecasted that Bawumia has been in the lead, and they still say he's in the lead. Actually projecting that he will win by, some suggest he will win by 50, getting to 60. But your campaign insists that anything less than 75% of the votes should not be taken seriously, because you are hoping to do up to that or even 80%. Where's your confidence coming from?
Our confidence is stemming from the fact that we have actually visited all 276 constituencies. And I'm saying 276 because we all know the Guan constituencies paper has been laid in Parliament. So next year's election, we are going to have the Guan constituency. And Dr. Bawumia has personally visited all 276 constituencies. He has interacted with almost all 200,000 delegates. And from the conversations we've had with them and from the interactions, we'll be surprised if we get anything below 75%. And that's where our confidence comes from. Our confidence also stems from the fact that Dr. Bawumia has been in the space of the NPP for the past 16 years. And in the 16 years, he has been with the delegates. Almost all the delegates have had personal interactions with him along the line at a certain point. They do know him. They know what he stands for. They know how he has served the NPP, the sacrifices he's made for the NPP. Right. And he does have a connection with the grassroots of the party. And when you do have such a connection, you are quite confident of what you'll get. So that's where our confidence stems from.
Right. Ellen, it's been suggested that you almost took the campaign for granted after the super delegate vote, but until your contender, who is now put in the front run, Kennedy Japan, began to fire some salvos, making all sorts of accusations, attempts to bribe him, and among other things, that you had taken the campaign for granted until he began to say those things. What do you say?
Yeah, we have never taken the campaign for granted. Dr. Bawumia started visiting delegates in their constituencies way before the August elections, and he continued after the August elections. We've never let our foot off the pedal. We knew how we were moving. We knew the speed at which we were moving, and we were very consistent about it. Perhaps people are saying that because of the consistency aspect and the fact that Dr. Bawumia directed those of us who speak for him, the communications team, his spokespersons, that there are certain accusations that you do not reply. We don't have to bother ourselves. We're focused on the goal. And the goal was to visit all our delegates and speak to them. We made sure we had visited and spoken to them before we started answering some of these accusations, including the one of the attempt to bribe him. And that's some of us find quite absurd. I mean, how do you tell us that you are attempted to bribe you with $800 million? $800 million. I mean, assuming we're sharing the $800 million within our delegates, the 200,000 delegates, each one will get about $3,500. Why would we carry that money for you? Ghana is in IMF. We are trying to get the IMF to help us sort out our economy. And each trench, we are getting $600 million. And you think Dr. Bawumia has $800 million sitting somewhere that he's going to give to somebody. Some of the accusations have been quite absurd. So we did not see it fit to focus on that. Our focus was on visiting our delegates, telling them the story of Dr. Bawumia, and explaining to them why Dr. Bawumia at this time should be leading. So it's not as if we've let our foot off the paddle. We've been paddling.
You agree, don't you, that that kind of campaign has hurt your campaign, where he speaks about the bribery, he talks about, takes on Bawumia and the entire government, that you have he said you should be ignored, or he said, ignore those who have left Ghana bankrupt. And among other things, he continued to say that there was such deep-seated corruption that people were just stealing money and stashing them abroad and behaving as if there was no tomorrow. All of this have hurt your campaign, has it not?
No, it hasn't. It has hurt his campaign. The Bawumia campaign has not been bothered at all, neither has it been hurt us. If he is in the government of which you are part, he's still board member of Ghana Gas. I haven't heard he has resigned yet. His wife is still board member of the Shippers Council. I haven't heard she has resigned yet. So if you are accusing such a government, which you are part of stealing, I believe he's also part of those who are stealing and stashing money abroad. I am not part. I haven't stolen any money. Dr. Bawumia hasn't stolen any money. So if he's making those accusations, it is an accusation on himself, because he's also part of government. And he has been since 2017. The Bawumia campaign has been a very focused campaign. The Bawumia team has been very focused, and we have been focused till today. And we are focusing to the end at 5 p.m. when Dr. Bawumia will be declared as the next flag bearer of the NPP. After that, we are going to focus on breaking the 8 and winning election 2024. So these accusations have not had any effect on the Bawumia campaign. If it has had any effect, it has had an effect on his campaign, and it tells of who he is and of how he's not a team player. You are part of a team, and you are accusing your own team members of stealing when you are an integral part of the team. It tells that perhaps you yourself, you're stealing. That's why you think others are stealing. Okay.
My final question will be to you, how are you going to be able to build bridges from here on after today? Because you can see that the party is beginning to rally everyone to think positive, speak positive things, rather than, these kinds of allegations. Some have said these allegations will do such a heavy damage to your campaign for 2024 elections. How do you think it's possible to mend the wounds after today?
Well, some of these wounds, as you said, there are wounds that some candidates were trying to inflict, and they were definitely not, I don't think people actually did take them seriously. Team Bawumia, over the time, our policy has been that we would win, but would have to work with everybody. Team Bawumia is prepared to work with everybody when we win. Assuming we don't win, which I find it very unlikely, we'll still have to work with everybody, because we are all NPP first before we all decided to join the teams that we have joined. For some of us, and especially Dr. Bawumia, he believes in unity. He believes in bringing everybody together. And that has been his demeanor, that has been his pusher throughout all this campaign. You realize that he only addresses the allegations when they are made directly at him. He doesn't make allegations against anybody.
Yeah, he said he was hearing one lie each day. So he was compelled to reply to some. His wife also tried to say something, and then Ken came back to say that if he attempted to reply Samira, her marriage will collapse. Well, people have been asking, see who is calling the kettle black.
Well, now you see why I'm saying Dr. Bawumia has been very focused on his campaign, and he's been very particular about unity after the process. Because when you know you were winning, when you know you are the one in the lead, you look beyond the contest.
All
and
right.
that's exactly what Dr. Bawumia has done. We're going to come together after this as the great party we are. You cannot stop people from contesting. That is why it is a democracy. And that is why
But you know that certainly these accusations that have been traded, particularly from Ken's camp, will be used heavily by your opponents against you in the 2024 elections. So this has been sort of a journey in self-destruction.
Not necessarily. Who are our opponents? The NDC? The NDC is going to use this? So let's move on.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ellen Amadako, communications team member for Bawumia campaign. We wish you the very best as you move around in the process. We are hoping that everything will be peaceful, so there will not be any issues. Now, let me go to George Obeng NP, who is aide to Mr. Adaenimo. George, thanks for joining us on Newsfile.
Thank you, Thompson.
Right. Some didn't give your team a dog's chance, but you're still, moving on. You are still strong. There were suspicions that after the super delegates, you may just throw in the towel.
Yes. I mean, that was what people thought. And as you note now, it is not so. It tells you of the brand. It tells you of the quality of Honorable Adaenimo. People have generally accepted our message. What we are telling them is that the purpose of the new patriotic party is simply to participate in elections and win the elections to run the country. And so, if we look at the history of our elections, we are telling them that you realize that any time a party stays in government for 8 years and they go for any presidential candidate who was a member of the outgoing government in the next general election, the party doesn't win. And so Professor Mills couldn't win for NDC in 2000. The current president, who was then, the candidate for the party in 2008, also failed to win for the party. And former President John Mahama also failed to win for NDC in 2016. And so we say that if you want to see a different result, then we've got to do things differently. So let's look for one who is not a member of this administration, one with strong charisma, with strong nobility, high level of integrity and dignity to lead the party. And that will help the party to retain power in the next general election. And people have believed that. People think that that is okay.
Have you been, yes, and that's why you have tagged your man, the fresh face. Yes, but have you been able to visit all the delegates as you need to do? Because the suggestion is that, you don't have the wherewithal.
Well, I mean, in the special college election, we did, we went all around the country, and, we had meetings with the delegates who were part of that special college election.
That was a small group.
Yes, with this main election, we had a different strategy. We have coordinators all over the constituencies, the 276 constituencies. We have coordinators there. So, we had a plan, to engage, those we think that we'll be able to, support Honorable Adaenimo's cause. So we didn't necessarily, move around, all the 276 constituencies. And the time was also quite limited for us, yeah.
Were you also able to afford the 200, 300 sort of TNT for all the delegates you met?
No, I wouldn't put it that way. The campaign process is such that if you invite someone, to meet you, at a point, it is just appropriate for you to take care of the person's maybe transportation and maybe lunch or something.
Yeah, that's been admitted by. I know you don't like me when you don't like it when I say the front runners. That's been admitted by campaigners for the front runners. I'm only asking, have you had the pocket to be able to do that? Give them 200, 300, and so on for how many delegates? In excess of 200,000.
Well, what you do is you look for a target. You look for a target, so you work with that target, not necessarily the entire delegates.
Right. So this morning you go out in the conviction that by 2 p.m. you would have won the day. Adai Nimo would have won the day as the flag bearer.
That is our expectation.
Let me pick your mind on this. That's be my last question. Somebody framed up a message this way. He said that he listened to Joy and he heard representatives of 2 of the presidential aspirants justify that they pay travel and transport, that's TNT, when they meet the delegates, as you have just confirmed. I mean, it's public knowledge. They further suggested that this may range between 100 to 200 per delegate. Let's assume they are being candid, with the NPP having 200,000 plus delegates. This equates to 20 million Ghana cedis to 40 million plus per candidate just to meet delegates, or 80 million to 160 million for all 4 candidates. We should ask ourselves, where is this money coming from? Kolebu dialysis unit is owing 4 million Ghana cedis. Because of that, it's been shut down. And so far, we are told 14 of renal dialysis patients who couldn't afford to stay alive have died. What do you say about that?
Well, Samson, what I would say is that we will have to separate public financial administration from, private enterprise. If someone believes in a candidate and supports the candidate in a way of maybe financial contribution, I think that is okay. But once, we are not looking at maybe the use of public finances, I think, that person wouldn't come in. Because, everybody, once you have your money, you determine what you do with your money.
All right. Thank you very much. We wish you the very best as you go about your day today. That was George Obeng NP, A to Adai Nimo, who says he's a fresh face and they believe that they will carry the day by the close of today. Kenwood Nosu, co-chairman, Akoto campaign, former Volta regional chairman, NPP, and former deputy minister for manpower, youth, and employment, also joins us. Thank you very much, Kenwood Nosu. Hello, Mr. Nuasu.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to your cherished listeners.
Right. So, Akoto, every year, there's those who have said, like Adainimo, you're wasting time, you're wasting money. Why do you do this when you know you can't win? What do you say to those people?
We haven't been in this game for fun. We cannot say we are in the game knowing we cannot win. We have worked over a period, a long period, probably even more than any candidate. We have worked hard. We have had assurances and support of our party supporters, on the ground. So we are convinced that we will win, and the worst scenario will be a runoff.
Right. We are looking in the pictures, and Dr. Bawumia has arrived at the NPP headquarters where they are voting, and he's just about to cast his vote. His beautiful wife, Samira, just by him. she will have a vote too, correct? Yes. So the thing is that you ought to be realistic. Are you being realistic about your chances?
We are. Very realistic.
And the outcome of the super delegates doesn't tell you anything?
No. The super delegates constitute less than 1% of those who will decide, our fate today. And the nature of the composition of the super delegates, was such that we knew that it would be skewed. However, our determination was to scale through the super delegates, and come to this level where we are now and where we know our strength.
All right. Thank you very much, Kenwo Nwosu. We wish you the very best today.
Thank you very much.
Right. And it's important. The last person we're speaking to, Duke Aaron Sasu, is a leading member, the Movement for Change, Alan Kyerematen for president. And this week, or in the course of this week, if you have seen the showing that they made in Kumasi, and we'll show you some of the footages of that, at least some of the pictures. If you haven't seen that, Alan Kyerematen appears to have been able to mobilize an army, such a mass of people, all in yellow shirts, in the Afrafranto, and people say, well, he should have been in today's contest, and he's not there. It does appear that he will make an impact in the NPP's attempt, what they call agenda breaking the eighth. Aaron, how do you feel, first of all, that you would have been in this race this morning, and it would have been possible that Alan could win? Hello, Aaron?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Am I clear? All right. So once again, a very good morning to you, Samson, and to the amazing gentlemen in your studio and all those who have joined us on Zoom, as well as the team in Ghanaians across the country. And firstly, let me mention that on Thursday...
Aaron, just hold on briefly for us. Let's hear Bawumia speak after he cast his ballot. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President, just finished voting, and together and his wife, they are speaking to the press.
Reasonably, but we will wait and see. Wait a minute, person may predict it, but we'll see what happens. But with voting, you have to wait for the counting to be done.
It's a baby declaration on now why a flag bearer.
Any day when you mean him, me bomb pie say obey me. That's it.
So the Vice President, he says he's confident of victory and he's hoping that the process will be smooth after. So he's done voting here. We're still expecting the President Nana Akufo-Addo to also come to. Dr. Owusu Afiya Koto, he's a patron and he's got voting right, and he himself would also be coming here to vote as well. So it's clearly a very big day for the NPP. Let me see if I can get Stephen Asamoah Boateng to speak more on these matters. The Vice President, we can get from here, but it is indeed.
NPP headquarters. Dr. Bawumia just finished casting his ballots and expresses optimism that he will be declared winner in the end. But he's still cautious about it, and he's praying and hoping, as he tells them, that it's in the hands of God, even though he's hopeful. Now, so Aaron, I was saying that how does it feel for your camp, Alan Kyerematen? He may have gathered such a crowd at the KNUST, but this would have been, as people say, his better option and chance to becoming president. Today, he's not part of the process.
The greatest option for Honorable Alan John Kyerematen is what we had glimmers of on Thursday. That young people from diverse backgrounds volunteered that they want to be a part of his campaign. And these very young people invited him with a focus on Ashanti region, that we, these young women and children, these amazing young people who are who desire, who have great ambition for this country, says that we want Alan Kyerematen to be president, and that his ideals of establishing a government of national unity and his ideals of his policy proposition of industrializing this country is what this country needs, and that the duopoly as exists within the NPP and NDC must be halted. And Alan Kyerematen is the best candidate to break that duopoly. And so on Thursday, at the CCB auditorium, the Central Classroom Block Auditorium, over 3,000 people. Oh,
it was not the Great Hall. Thank you.
Exactly. Who have volunteered to be active campaigners for Alan Kyerematen. So the people you saw were not just an invitation to the general public. These are people who have personally volunteered by calling Alan Kyerematen personally that we want to be part of your campaign. And you're going to see similar events across the country, across all regions across the country, where hundreds of thousands of people have already volunteered that they want to be part of the campaign actively. And you see this very program across the country. But what is important is that represented within these volunteers is not just people who were historically with the NPP. We have people who used to be diehard supporters of the NDC who are present. We have people from diverse religious backgrounds. Exactly. We have people from diverse ethnic backgrounds. We have people who are leading communicators even within the NDC who came out boldly to say that never in a time in the history of this country have there been an opportunity for such momentous progress. And they want to be a part of history.
So Duke, this, you say over 3,000 volunteers. This is going to be the Alan movement for change boots on the ground. These are not just like supporters who have come together, right?
No, these are the boots on the ground. These are the campaign managers in their communities, in their constituencies, in their environs. These are people who are saying that we want to go house to house for Honorable Alan Kyerematen. This is not just a general populist appeal. So believe you me when I say that this is just for the Ashanti region, and you are going to see much more across the different regions in the coming weeks.
When Indum started the PPP, we saw images closer to this, not as much as this. You are told that in Ghana, independent presidential candidates don't make 2% of the votes. How are you going to break that?
Firstly, never in history you've seen images for probably Mr. Indum at a national level, which were not even close to what we saw for only a single region.
That's correct.
For a single region, we managed to get people who on their own have decided that we want to be part of a campaign process. This is not even a mass campaign rally. That is a first signal. Secondly, the same thing as to the fact that independent candidates cannot make waves. We saw the same message thrown to Patrice Talon in Benin. We saw the same message thrown to a friend, Mr. Peter Obi in Nigeria, who was a part of the PDP and managed to become a part of the Labour Party. The level of impact and the degree of penetration that these two individuals made within their political spaces in Benin and Nigeria is one that has amazed every single person who has followed political discourse in these two countries. It tells you that at the end of the day, one, your message. Secondly, the personality of the candidate. Thirdly, your involvement in the political process historically is one that influences how well you can penetrate the political process. And no one, not even Samson yourself, can in any way say that Alan Kyerematen doesn't have such a personality, doesn't have such political history, and doesn't have a message that is at the core of uniting this country, no matter your background.
Okay, thank you very much, Duke. We wish you the very best, but that was such a great crowd. Bawumia is still speaking. I'm coming to the studio now.
We'll wait and make an assessment when we actually see the votes, but I just hope so.
How do you see the process so far?
So far, yes. So what we'll wait to make a proper assessment at the end of it.
You're wearing one with your wife, our second lady. Is that, an indication that you are holding one?
No, it isn't. It's
incoming president. Everybody is waiting for you to win. I mean, what news should we expect in terms of the management of the economy?
You will hear.
This way.
All right, so now let's come to the studio. And gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for your patience. Having listened to all the aids to the campaigns and also the incursion by Alan, what do you say to what is happening today? Particularly about how the NPP is able to forge as a united front after these processes. Alan is out. He's angry. His people are not happy. He's only in Kumasi, over 3,000 people in one gathering. And they say these are the guys who are going to be doing door-to-door campaign. And then you have the conduct of the campaign by Kennedy Japan, throwing out all the allegations about corruption, about stealing, about bribery and all sorts. What do you see? They got them to actually sign a memorandum of understanding that whatever it takes, they will stick to the party. Let me begin with you, Bernard.
Greetings to the Honorable Yusuf Husseini and to yourself. I need to commend you for how you have migrated from the small journalist to the colossus that you are today. And to also remind you that you are probably the only journalist who could force me to attend a midnight program in the Ashanti region. I will leave Accra and get to Kumasi. And when the program is done, I will be in the next available bus coming to Accra.
What memories you bring?
Having said that, I've listened keenly but I didn't hear any spokesperson for Kennedy Japan as you were doing your
we may try.
Yeah, I didn't hear. So I listened to 3 of the current contestants.
That's correct. That's correct, yeah.
And in listening to the 3, Ellen made the point that Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia has served the party for 16 years. And that is the greatest achievement of a vice president that has served the party for 16 years. But I do know Kennedy Ajapan, for instance, has served the party since 1992, so 31 years. Akoto Afriye Atopa has also served the party for nearly 30 years. And of course, Adainimo has also served the party for 30 years. These 3 have at one point in time been in parliament, contributing enormously to grassroots building of the party.
Right.
So if Akoto was in parliament representing Kwadaso, Adainimo representing Mampong, Kennedy Ajapan representing Asin North, and that is not enough contribution to the new patriotic party, then it is the 16 years that somebody was selected as running mate that constitute sufficient service to the party.
There's somebody who brought them victory.
Well,
victories.
I'm not sure that Kennedy did not play a part in that victory. And you cannot exclude the role that Akoto Afriye played to that victory. Neither can you exclude the services that Adainimo played. One man cannot lead to a political victory. It means that everybody within the political space played a role. The fact that you have been put as the running mate does not mean that it is your running mateship that brought the party to victory. In fact, There were people who were on the sidelines. People like Sami Aoku, people like John Bwedu, people like Hamid Mustafa. The kind of impact they made, particularly on the youth, probably the vice president could not have made that impact. And so all those put together made it possible for the New Patriotic Party to win. So let's not...
But they themselves admit
let not
that
one person...
but for the intervention of Dr. Bawumia, they couldn't break the NDC's monopoly in our part of the country, as in the regions in the north, as happened with Bawumia. So they themselves are the ones touting it, that he was
There's
their...
no doubt about people trying to fish out and embellish their status. And the vice president himself did that. One of the things the vice president did in the Upper East region was to say that why he brought about the innovation, digitalization within our Ghanaian economy. And I ask you, Samson, aren't you aware that Edward Salia was Minister for Transport and Communication?
That's correct.
Aren't you aware that the liberalization of the telecom sector started with Edward Salia? Aren't you aware at the period where Mobitel came into this country and you could hear the adverts, Mijina Abontin and Ameka say, at that time, Bawumia was the one leading the chat. Aren't you aware that Ghana Telecom, which eventually gave birth to One Touch, was at the time John Mahama and Spio Gabriel were deputy minister and ministers together? And so if you take the process and the transition that I keep insisting that probably before I joined politics, I was working for Internal Revenue and we're doing typewriter, manual typewriter. No time we got the electronic typewriters or electric typewriters, and no time computers came. We had these big desktops with floppy disks and what have you. I'm sure you remember the progression. And then today, we all used to run to what we call busy internet. I think it's being used for something. Everybody who wanted to get some information on the world needed to get to busy internet. That was the only place probably, or one of the few places you could access internet. Today, the internet is in your palm. How did the vice president contribute to that internet in our palm? Just tell me. And so I
thought that you were saying that to admit that the politicians should admit the incremental contributions
precisely
of each other.
Precisely.
But you cannot write...
No. The point I'm trying to make is that when somebody arrogates to him or herself what has been started in bits and pieces to get to a certain point without appreciating that these processes did not start with you and will not end with you, then it means that you want to call yourself the Alpha and Omega. And no one will agree to that because the evidence that I've just put across suggests that, look, these processes were there and they will continue to evolve. These days, people can actually walk with their phone somewhere and then they'll be talking, isn't it? So many revolutions within the telecom and for the digital space are ongoing. So when you are a user, not a producer, we actually users, then we cannot be gloating over it. Right. Having said that, I think that is important to look at, particularly the guy who spoke for Adanimo.
Okay, George.
He made a point that by their assessment, and somehow I was like, I didn't take notice of that, that any time you brought in somebody who has been a part of the system, they've not been able to cross over 8 years. When they serve their 8 years, they stumble. And he cited that why Atta Mills could not break the 8. He moved on to cite Akufo-Addo could not break the 8. And cited John Mahama could not break the 8. And so somebody who has worked with the system has never been able to break the 8. That is fact. And so that is how come they feel that Adanimo has not been part of the system. In fact, the system that we know today has been very adversarial against Adanimo. You know that. On many counts, they will not even allow him to contest for parliamentary primaries. He has suffered, but he has been consistent for the past 3 elections within the New Patriotic Party. He goes in there, he gets the nod to go into the second round. After every special delegate, he gets the chance to participate in the main elections. And so you cannot discount the fact that when nobody gives him a dog's chance, and from day one, you will not think that a dynamo is on the ground. And yet he has been able to get into this. So no matter what, it means that there are some people within the New Patriotic Party who are committed to ensuring that he gets it. And of course, I listened to Ken Nuwaso, and he says that they didn't come here as jokers. They came in, they managed to be part of the top 5, and here they are. They are going to contest and to prove the point. I am looking forward, if Kennedy Agyapong starts saying that people are corrupt, Kennedy Agyapong says that people are stealing our money, and they are snatching it away. There is evidence to prove it. Aren't you aware that at one point in time, the bank accounts of Ghana, our embassy in Brussels, was closed because of money laundering issues? That it had to take, and sometimes that is the problem I have. It had to take Inus Husseini's minority, no, not minority, but the minority belongs to all of us. Inus Husseini's NDC MPs to join with their colleagues to go to Brussels, to go and kneel down and beg the authorities to say, please, this is about Ghana, it's not about the New Patriotic Party and Nana Akufo-Addo. So, yes, if you close the bank account, it will have ramifications for us. But I thought that since we are failing to stop the siphoning of our resources, our money, outside, and the Belgians are taking a step to say that, look, don't use our country as a base, that the minority would have supported and probably to call for other countries to begin to find out whether our accounts are being used to launder monies and who are those monies being laundered for. So when Kennedy Agyapong comes to say that people are stealing our money, the evidence is there because formally we know that these things took place. And so I think that what I want to tell people is that the New Patriotic Party, as a political institution, have done well. The party executives are here.
So the question we're asking, as a trade of these allegations, particularly in the last few days to today, do you think that they are able to do what the General Secretary, for example, says? He says that NPP will come out from November 4 elections stronger. That's Justin Kodia. Gabia Astro-Chiridako says that don't be fooled to think there is this unity in NPP. And he says they will come back stronger. There are others who say this has been the pressing of the button of self-destruction.
Well, if wishes were horses, we are told beggars who ride. And so these are the wishes. Otherwise, why will the NPP compel people to come and sign a declaration that win or lose, we will stick together? Why didn't they do that before the special delegates Congress, about the 900 people? So the exit of Alan Chiremanteng and the pronouncement of Kennedy Agyapong.
I think it's a repeat. They did it.
The pronouncement, they did it.
The candidates signed
that declaration, yes, and Alan went.
Yes.
And they have not gone to court to stop him from going.
They suggested they could go to court to stop him, but so they know that.
You as a lawyer, you know that the rights, fundamental rights to association and de-association is guaranteed in Chapter 5 of the Constitution.
That's correct.
And so they can decide to associate with the New Patriotic Party or not to associate. So no declaration can come and invalidate constitutional provision. And so the NPP, I'm told that they are a club of cuckoo dams. So if you are the club of cuckoo dams, you should have known that this is a no-starter.
Right.
And so it's important that those pronouncements are made. But what is important here is that look at also the crowd that Alan pulled.
Yes.
That was shocking to me.
They said they are not just like members for
that
votes.
Was very shocking to me.
These are volunteers who are going to do.
And you know that Fridays are happy days for me as well. So
okay.
Yesterday night I met some of our lands people. I met Hope Sinadoi and said, Bernard, the things we are doing on the ground, people have no idea. And I could see from where we were that even in the midst of wanting to have some distressing, they were moving from table to table and engaging with people. I just noticed that they spread and they were doing it. I'm like, wow, we don't do politics only at serene places. Even in unorthodox places, they started a certain move. And I think that we should watch out. Finally, Samson, let me say that I wish the New Patriotic Party well. But I must conclude by saying that for the time that I have lived to be fully active in party politics, this is the most uninspiring array of presidential candidates that the New Patriotic Party has ever presented.
Okay.
From 1992, just go to look at the caliber. Just go to look at the metal that each one of them brought to the table. And come and look at the caliber of people who just run their mouths like diarrhea looking for the landlord in the house. From Kennedy Ajapong, the vice president has ceased talking about the economy, and he's no more talking about the exchange rates. He's no more talking about inflation. He's not talking about the GDP growth and its impact on the citizens' life and well-being. Kennedy Ajapong comes to say that the vice president knows who killed Ahmed Swale, one of your colleagues. And as we speak, there is no official response to say the vice president doesn't know. So if as vice president, you know who killed the Ahmed Swale, a journalist, and the police are struggling to find the killers, then in the unlikely event that you become president, how many will you kill? So I see also, I don't know how it is.
No, but you have been told how not to take seriously allegations made by Kennedy Ajapong.
Which one is that?
Which one are you using?
Is it not the same Kennedy Ajapong that showed the picture of Ahmed Swale? And everybody said he was just talking anyhow. And in the same Ahmed Swale was killed. If you don't take his pronouncement serious, I do. Because I have seen and witnessed that a journalist has died because Kennedy said they can kill him.
Yes, Honorable News of Seni. There are those who say they have just been in a process of damaging themselves beyond repair for the 2024 elections. The NDC should be excited about that.
Well, the NDC, first of all, let me greet Chief Mona. A long time. The last time I saw him was when we were demonstrating against the governor of the Bank of Ghana. And your good self, over the weekend, week we were at Legon on homecoming.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
Which
that was quite interesting. Now, I have said, and sometimes I feel that we are on the same path with your station in observing that the NPP appears to have pressed the self-destruct button. And we are seeing it play out every now and then in the organization of the Congress. Looking at what has happened since the declaration of the opening of nominations for the position of flag bearer of the party, one can clearly see that things are happening in chapters and in parts. It appears to me that the closure of part 1 of the book, selecting the flag bearer for the 2024 elections for the NPP, will close today. In that first part, we've seen accusations of intimidation, we've seen vote buying, we've seen the active involvement of government officials in projecting a particular candidate. We have seen the Chief of Staff ensconce himself in the office of the headquarters of the NPP, trying to woo special delegates to vote a particular way. We've seen the agent of the Alan Chiramanten assaulted in the Northeast region.
Beaten.
We've seen the flagrant violation of voting rules where special delegates were compelled to show their ballots to the next standing officer, like a whip system. And so clearly, for anybody, and particularly Gabi, to say that anybody who thinks that there is this unity in his party, in the NPP, is a fool. He says, don't be fooled into thinking that there's this unity in the party. I think he's responding to Kufuor, because President Kufuor has said categorically that factionalism and divisiveness is what is afflicting the NPP now. And so if he has not seen that there's this unity, some of his party elders have seen that. But let me begin on a serious note with the conclusion of my brother Bernard. There is a significant deterioration of the NPP under Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo. Significant. That institution has decayed or is decaying in the quality of leadership that is emerging.
Quality of leadership?
That is emerging. Now, what do you do to 4 guys who, to some degree and some level, cannot adequately represent the views, aspirations, expectations of an institution like the NPP, of a party like the NPP? You obviously will have to choose one of them. If you are in the words of the late Honorable, what was his name? Mensah, J.K. Mensah, what was his name?
The
senior and the late
J.H. Mensah.
J.H. Mensah. If you are presented with a basket of rotten cassava and you really want to pick one, you must examine that basket of rotten cassava and see which one is less rotten and pick that one. Not so. So that is what is happening. Now, look at what happened. In 1992, have you looked at the people, the caliber of people who contested the NPP primaries? Do you remember a name like Jan Salvi? Colossus. I mean, Kufuor himself. Adubuahi. Do you remember those names? They stand tall. Which of these guys presently contesting will measure up to them?
You are saying...
Do you remember Kufuor's contest against Adubuahi and his subsequent emergence? The number of people who contested him, including Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo. Do you remember?
You're saying that someone who has been vice president for 2 terms does not qualify to become president? Is that what you're saying?
What does Bawumia represent in the NPP? Tell me. What does it stand for?
Among others, they say, and people see that he represents the face that will give you a smart economy. Will create a smart economy for you.
What smart economy? What smart economy is Bawumia creating that we have not seen? Bawumia in 2000, I mean the 2000 elections.
2008.
2008 elections was a wild card. Was untested, untried. Ghanaians never experienced him. So his pronouncements were exciting. They caught the imagination of many people. And Nana Akufo-Addo was sounding all the vibes, combining an economics who made the now legendary statement of the weakness of the economy being exposed by the performance of the currency. I mean, clearly combined to produce in the minds of many people a potent leadership that could move Ghana to the next level. Is that what you're saying we should credit Bawumia for when you say that he will bring smart economy?
Until COVID and Ukraine war, as we are repeatedly told, would you have said these things about
I've always said that when you cite COVID and Ukraine war, then you close your eyes to relativities. And because we engage in intellectual arguments,
they tell you they were growing the economy at a rate that you couldn't grow the economy at.
People who cannot really appreciate relativities
It tells you about the digitization programs that have gone on at the ports that have reduced corruption greatly.
Where?
At the passport office, at DVLA. They talk about all of
Where
this.
In the ports?
The evidence is there.
Where in the ports have the digitization reduced corruption? Where? Which part of the ports?
There's a paperless port system.
Which part?
Now.
Which part of the port? We will come to corruption. I don't want to take the wind out of your sail. I'm just trying to develop the argument that this Bawumia is not the Bawumia of 2016. Get it clear in your mind. What Bawumia is made of has been exposed these 8 years. That Ghanaians are able to assess him. Unlike the Bawumia pre-2016, who had not been assessed by Ghanaians. I have said continuously that Nana Akufo-Addo is a fake. It's a fake. Nana Akufo-Addo, before he became president, is not the Nana Akufo-Addo after he became president. Two completely different characters. And so we are being confronted and given the opportunity, the party is being confronted and given an opportunity to choose a leader. And this very leadership of the NPP is fostering on the party, on their party, a person who has helped to put us or bring us to this level of disaster. And that is why persons like Adanimo can argue. And there is universal truth to that. That where there is fatigue of a party, where the people, the citizens, the electorates are fatigued, they don't normally, it doesn't make sense to elect somebody who is closely associated with the leadership that has been fatigued to take the party to the next level. And it's universal. No, you wouldn't find, you will hardly find.
They tell you that the NDC's biggest fear is Dr. Bawumia. His biggest fear, that since he came on the scene, they have broken your monopoly in the regions in the north.
Our biggest fear,
is evidence of what you are afraid of.
Samson, our biggest fear now is when we do win power, what will be the level of mess that we left by the NPP? That's our biggest fear. Because it appears that the NPP is involved in some mafia tactics in the way they deal with judgment debts, in the way they negotiate contracts, in the way they manage the economy. There are many things that we don't know. That is our greatest fear, and not Bawumia. Our greatest fear will be what level of deterioration will the party meet when we come into power.
Well, the party and its members disagree with you completely. In the superdelegates elections, as you know, Dr. Bawumia garnered 629 votes, representing 68.15%. Kennedy Agyapong had 132 votes, representing 14.30%. Akoto Efriye had 36 votes, 3.90%, and Adainimo had 0.98%, only 0.98%. He had just 9 votes. So when Honorable News Officer suggests that he represents somewhat, and as Bernard also sought to suggest, someone who is not with the system and may present a better option, that's what the party delegates are saying. And at this stage, they are the people who matter. They determine who will be the standard bearer or not. Let me go on the phone, on Zoom now, and get Dr. Theo Echampong joining us from his base in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Dr. Theo Echampong.
Glad to be here.
Great. And Dr. Theo Echampong is joining us, and he's always had his eyes on looking at the figures, and he also would like to look at what the Afrobarometer says and so on and so forth. He is no stranger. Is political risk analyst and economist. So we are trying to understand if what has happened, particularly in the last few couple of months and weeks to today, has not done too much damage to the NPP. There are those who say that they will not be able to recover. Where do you stand?
Oh, I think definitely it will have some damage. The point really is that the NPP has been struggling for a while now, particularly on issues of the economy and living standards and livelihoods. And it is within that context that they are having these primaries with a number of people that are contesting to seek to lead the party in an attempt to, as they call it, break the eight. And when you actually look at the pack, for me, that Dr. Bawumia will win today's primaries, it's a foregone conclusion. The issue for a number of things there is really by what margin of victory should we expect? Because that would be the biggest signal, if any, of the extent of party unity. And that also could be complemented by whatever concession speeches the other candidates make. Dr. Bawumia would need to secure about 75%. So at the minimum, 7 in 10 of the people that would be voting would have to actually vote for him in order to sort of send some sort of emphatic statement of his likability within the rank and file of the party, and allow him to contest right on the ticket of that. However, in my view, I think that is really it's a minor issue. He's actually got major issues that his advisors and strategists must find answers to in the next, coming weeks and months if they are to sort of break the eight. And I say this on the premise that the 2024 election actually remains the NDC's to lose. So if you were to do any polling now and speak to people around in terms of who they're likely to vote for on both sides, given the context of the economy and all of that, the NDC currently has a little bit of a higher margin relative to the NPP. And even with all the other third parties around, who some of whom have broken away from the NPP, there is then a further high likelihood of a runoff coming 2024. So if we accept that premise as given, then the question then becomes, how does Dr. Bawumia, couch his messaging in that context? And for me, it's important because, again, he was presented to us between 2012 to 2016 as the economic messiah or economic guru. And if you look at the evidence so far between what has been done and what the party has delivered, it's been suboptimal, right? There's been issues with the economy, debt exchange, IMF, livelihoods, borrowing, all over the place. And you remember something, at some point, even Dr. Bawumia asked the late Vice President Imsata the famous 170 questions, right, on the
That's
economy.
right, yeah.
And you begin to ask yourself, so perhaps is it time, for Dr. Bawumia to actually answer these questions himself? Because after all,
Ken has asked him to answer them.
He chairs the economic management team, and of course, he's been a core part of the Akufo-Addo presidency. Some have argued that there are constraints that have prevented him from sort of delivering, quote and unquote, right? And they've talked about other powerful voices and powerful individuals that in a way have prevented the vice president from doing what
No, the argument has been that this kind of talk appears to pitch him as the president, not the vice president.
Exactly. But even importantly, something. So how in one breath does Dr. Bawumia, for example, claim successes for things like digitalization, but not the city depreciation or cost of living or borrowing, or the very things that, right, at one point he championed and did a lot of, advocacy on, to the point that, again, if you look at relatively, the NDC at that point was even tagged as quote and unquote incompetent, right? And it then led the NPP to win the 2016 election with one of the biggest margins by far that we have seen in the Fourth Republic, right? So you see that from that time, the NPP had a lot of goodwill, and the goodwill, in my view, has been squandered. So the question fundamentally now is, what is going to be different this time under a proposed Dr. Bawumia presidency? Because he's going to win the primaries.
The question also to you, Dr. Theo Champong, is that until COVID and Ukraine, would you say what you are saying and trying to attribute to Dr. Bawumia that they have not performed?
We have had this debate here.
Yeah, I know, but
everybody manages an economy everywhere in the world. There will always be constraints. There will always be shocks. There will always be things that come and go. That is the nature of the world that we live in. So it's not like you are managing the economy in a vacuum and saying that, oh, they won't be shocked and all of that. And even before that, they were warned, and there were warnings all over the place, right? So it is difficult for me to accept that argument that, oh, but for Russia, Ukraine, then maybe things would have been better. You have been brought in to fix a problem. And part of fixing that problem also means having to deal with issues that come externally. And in this particular instance, like we said, they had an underlying, right, fiscal ailment in terms of the borrowing or the excessive borrowing. So you cannot isolate that factor and say, oh, but for COVID and Russia, Ukraine, then the economy we would have actually ended up crashing.
So as an economist, we have gone over this issue over and again here, but let me ask you now, from where you sit, have COVID and Ukraine impacted the world in an unprecedented manner? Yes or no?
It has. Yes, it has. The question is, what has been the response by different countries that Ghana, right, is no exception to, even amongst our neighbors, amongst our peers? So it's a bit of a difficult argument to say, yeah, it has affected everybody. But some people have actually been able to withstand it better than others. Just like COVID, those that had diabetes and things ended up being predisposed and dying, and others that had a better immune system were able to withstand the shocks. Our immune system was weak as a country. It's as simple as that.
You speak.
It's important. Something quick one.
Okay.
It's important because, again, remember that the candidature of the man was presented to us as somebody who's got the solutions to the issues of the country. Very, very important. And then you come in and there are all these issues. So you cannot isolate what or the rhetoric that Dr. Bawumia delivered between 2012 and 2016 and all the lectures and all the issues that many of us, warmed up to. Those issues that he raised about depreciation, cost of borrowing, excessive borrowing, IMF, are equally as valid today as they were.
Now let's bring the focus back onto the voting happening. You speak in the same terms as we have heard generally from pollsters, people who have gone to do surveys, among others, that Dr. Bawumia will win. It's a foregone conclusion he will win. It's about the margin with which he will win. People say that his fiercest contender, now Ken, not Alan Shremanting, has reached out a lot to those down there, the grassroots, as in the polling station executives. The polling station executives form about 92%, almost 93% of the total number of people who are going to vote, who are voting this morning. Of the 200,000 plus, the polling station executives constitute 193,000 plus. Why don't you still give yourself a little chance that Ken could pull a surprise.
I don't think Ken would be able to pull a surprise. Both of the candidates, I'm sure they've gone around, as you've heard from their spokesperson, all of the regions and constituencies. They've met these people, they've engaged them, and they sort of know what the issues are. It is not to say that some of them would not vote for, other candidates beyond Dr. Bawumia. I mean, if you look at the polling that's been done by various organizations, it's quite clear that Kennedy would be able to get something. Some are even indicating around 20 to 25%, but that's not going to be enough to get him over the line. So I don't think that Kennedy really has a chance. He has an appeal. The grassroots people like him, but at the end of the day, people also like, okay, who is your best chance or put that you've got going to go into the election? And even on the issues of corruption and others that will come to, some of which Kennedy talks about. I mean, Kennedy cannot extricate himself from the mess and the things that are. He's also a beneficiary of that same system.
Some say he's perhaps the biggest beneficiary.
Yeah, so how do you square, again, that circle? So you begin to see that, again, there's a lot of inconsistency sometimes even between the rhetoric and the reality on the ground. But as far as I'm aware and from where I sit, I think that Dr. Bawumia would win the primaries. That, for me, is a starting point, that the biggest issue that the NPP faces is in terms of messaging and the issue really about the rhetoric pre-2016 and then the delivery that we have seen in terms of the economy post 2016. That really is going to be the main. And then, of course, there's the other issue, of course, who becomes his running mate, right, as well. And because you need somebody that's got the electoral.
Interesting, you bring that aspect in. The suggestion is that, as we have seen Alan command such a mass in Kumasi, the suggestion is that that's the place that Kentu would have hoped to get some good numbers, but he will not get it because the potential is, or the obvious thing is that Bawumia, if he does win, will pick his running mate from the Ashanti region. And so they too would like to, even the MPs themselves, would like to mobilize their people to make a showing, so they can actually make a pitch that my constituency gave you these numbers. What do you say about that?
Yeah, so our politics has always been based on part ethnicity, or some will call it identity politics, right? And you need somebody that can mobilize people at the grassroots to come and vote for you along certain lines. It could be along religious lines, it could be along ethnicity-based lines. And if you look at the way we've done our politics since 1992, typically you have one candidate from the northern part of the country and then another candidate from the south, at least amongst the two main parties. So definitely Dr. Bawumia would have to choose, for want of a better word, an Akan candidate, right?
All right.
To where he chooses that person from, that becomes a bit interesting, because I think the Kumasi or the Ashanti argument has been made quite strongly, because that's really the heartland of the party. If you look at votes or actual number of votes that they do garner, but then you cannot discount, of course, the Allen factor and all of that. So you need a strong candidate that has that appeal and can pull the vote, because at the end of the day, if your core voters stay out because of apathy, because of issues with the economy, then you're going to lose the election. It's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go to Suleimana, and then we'll take a quick break, return to go to Boku to find out what exactly has been happening. Two different versions of the story as to how the military eventually went and brutalized some of the residents there, and other things. Now, Sule, thank you very much for your patience once again. from where you look at things as a man who is deep in the media, what do you see when you look in the crystal ball?
Well, Samson, thank you very much, and good morning to colleagues and our listeners and viewers. Well, I share the same view that in terms of the outcome of the ongoing primaries, it's almost a done deal that Dr. Bawumia would emerge the winner. What I'm not too certain about is the projections that his supporters are making in terms of they being disappointed if he ends up not getting up to 75 or 80%. I have some little doubts about that because I do expect that perhaps Ken may do well than they are expecting, and also even the former Agric Minister Afriya Kuto may as well pull some figures here and there that may reduce the expectations that they do have.
But all of them not enough to win?
I don't think that, of course, I mean, they are contesting individually. I don't even think that all of them put together may be even able to drag this into a runoff in terms of Dr. Bawumia not being able to secure an absolute victory. And so for me, it's about the margin that we'll be looking at. But I think what is happening fundamentally is also good for our democracy. We need to acknowledge that. You know, for our democracy to grow, we need these kinds of internal party contests to be as it is, quite keen, quite robust, and all of that. Yes, there are the downsides in terms of the monies that are being thrown out, you know, here and there, the monetization, which is a problem of our general politics. But to have, you know, an internal contest within our political parties as it's happening now, I think that is certainly something that is quite a positive thing. Now, the other thing is, once Dr. Bawumia wins, there's a certain dynamic that would be thrown in that perhaps we are not looking at. He wins and automatically he becomes the leader of the party. But he would remain the vice president. The president will remain the president. Unlike President Kufuor's time, where at some point, everyone interested, you need to resign. So those who were ministers had to resign. Aliu Muhammad stayed on, but couldn't win. But in this case, we would have somebody who is still the vice president winning and becoming the candidate and the leader of the party. People would then be looking at what can Dr. Bawumia do in the remaining 1 year or so to sort of redeem all the issues that we are talking about. And people may not also now agree so much when people say, oh, but after all, he's not the president, because he becomes the face of the party, and people would even begin to associate the positives and negatives of the party more with him. In terms of going forward into 2024, of course, as Dr. Tioe Champong has said, I strongly also believe that it is an NDC's election to lose. And that is because if you look at the issues, unlike again 2008, when the NPP had a very strong track record of President Kufuor to run on, unfortunately this time around, the NPP doesn't have that. What it has been, you know, high inflation, depreciation, significant depreciation of the cedi from 3.9 or so in 2016 to almost 12 cedis now. High rate of unemployment is still an issue. We are under IMF, back to IMF as they assumed office with. There are issues about high levels of corruption. We will get into that if time allows. There are charges about profligate lifestyles among MPs and so on. And so the track record is not as strong for the NPP as in the 2008 elections when President Akufo-Addo or candidate Akufo-Addo then had that strong track record. Again, in terms of Dr. Bawumia, Samson, I want to perhaps take our minds to that whole narrative about the Bawumia effect in the North. Now, looking at the data from the North, I think what is happening is that generally the NPP has appeared to be ascending over the years. If you look at 1992, Professor Eduboahin got about just 16% or so of the votes in the North. Then you came to 1996. President Kufuor moves that to about 30 or 33%. There was no Bawumia then. And we are talking about from 16 to about 30. That's doubling of the support. And from then, you would see an incremental, proportion for the NPP's votes over time. At some point, you may say, well, this is just about 2%, 3%. But I think relatively, it's about being the same. If you look at the holistic northern sector, and you take the Upper East, for example, we know in the last election, they got just a single vote, a single seat in the whole of Upper East region. You take the Northeast region, and people will tell you that perhaps if Dr. Bawumia had not been a vice president and the influence he has and all of that, maybe the creation of that region may not have happened. So people credit him a lot. His people will credit him a lot for giving them a region. And yet, if you look at the votes there, it's perhaps not as many would have expected. In fact, in Alerugu, which is the capital of that region, the NDC managed to win that seat from a stalwart like Haja Alima Mahama. So it's not as people would want many to believe. Plus the fact that this will be the first time we are having two northern candidates leading the two main political parties. So the issues of ethnicity, identity politics, the dynamics again is going to change.
All right.
And so it's not quite a straightforward thing. But as I said, beyond today, people would look forward to Bawumia as the leader of the NPP, whether he can change the dynamics in terms of the situation in the country today going forward, whether he can do some magic to respond to his own 170 questions that he posed on the economy.
Right, and Ken has reposed those questions back to him, and also said that he's a failure because of the economy, among others, so he doesn't deserve. He's actually said a lot of things to show, and when you're listening to him, it's almost like we are listening to an NDC, spokesperson who is in a debate with an NPP spokesperson. And he says they have run the economy down, they don't deserve another opportunity. He actually said that they had lost this election 2 years ago. The bribery allegations and all, do you think that as the party is now saying that they will emerge stronger, they will be unified going into the 2024 election, is something that will happen? And President Akufo-Addo, just hold on for me. President Akufo-Addo, has he just voted or is about to vote? Let's hear him.
It has to be. I'm not the decider. It's the people who decide.
You want some, but you will be interested in who succeeds you.
The one that the grassroots of our party want is the one who will win.
But Mr. President, would you say you have managed the economy well?
You want me to come and have this interview here today?
Okay. So that's His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
All right, so the president has finished casting his vote and he's leaving. And I'll tell you why my guests in the studio are laughing, and even on Zoom are also laughing, because the question was posed to Bawumia earlier about the economy, and he said he'll speak about it later. Then the question has been posed to the president again. Simple. Will you say you have managed the economy well? He could have said yes. He could have said whatever. But he said this is not the time to be answering such a question. Sule, I saw you also laughing. Why? What is it?
Yeah, Samson, I think in terms of building consensus post the elections, as politicians, I'm sure they will find a way of dealing with that.
They'll do it.
As I said last week,
it's gotten very personal, has it not? You think they'll be able to mend the cracks?
It has, but I don't expect that Ken or the others would say, look, I'm breaking away, or I'm running as an independent, I'm sure they would find a way of bringing them together.
Ken has already said this morning that whoever wins, if he loses, he will help the person to campaign in the elections. The thing will be whether or not one team will accept the other and his people.
No, I think that it would happen, but of course, some significant damage has already been made in terms of the intra-party rhetoric and attacks against each other and all of that. But
just hold on. Let's hear if the Minister of Finance will answer that question if he's asked.
Expect that it's a family affair, really. So we don't expect anything terrible, and I'm expecting that 2-3 o'clock will be done. Counting will be done by 4, and then we'll all meet at the stadium. For a pretty serious endorsement for who the candidate is. The clarity is to break the 8 for policy continuity, and we hope this will exemplify the type of unity that will bring to the country.
But how confident are you that this breaking the 8 will really be achieved, looking at the stand of the economy now that every Ghanaian or most Ghanaians are complaining of severe hardship?
Right. I think it is true. The question then is, where were we last year, for example? Where were we before COVID and global turbulence? And what have we been able to do since last year? And you can see how inflation has come down by some 16%. The growth is very strong, 3% compared to 1.5% that was expected. Currency has been mostly stable since February, and we intend to continue that. As you know, we went through the IMF reviews and with pretty good marks, where the world is saying that Ghana has paid its dues. Obviously, the domestic debt exchange was a very painful process, but it also showed our resilience and our determination to sacrifice to get to a better future. We are now also in the middle of a growth agenda that would run in complement to the IMF program. And you saw last Friday what we held, a mutual prosperity dialogue to begin stakeholders to know that we, Ghana, we are resilient, we are a nation of a manifest destiny for greatness, and we'll do it.
But in the face of all of this, Ghanaians don't seem to really
decide 2024 whether our candidate versus former President Mahama, who will be doing a 4-year term, is the best thing for the nation. And those are critical issues that we have to. And whether people who have been able to build the economy before global incidences occurred and they are in the process of also turning the corner should be at the helm of the thing. But that's up to you and I to make that determination.
But the numbers don't favor you, they favor the NDC more.
We don't know that. We don't know that. When you do
rate and all that during their time, it was better than now, and that's what Ghanaians are looking at.
Yeah, it's amazing if you can think that something that has not happened in 100 years has happened, and we are where we are compared to other nations, and knowing that we understand the problem and we are committed to solving it. I think Ghanaians will make up their mind at that time, but I'm sure the economy will be stronger. We'll have a growth agenda that is tackling the issue of jobs, and we will prevail. We've done it before, and believe me, we will do it again. Thank you very much.
People are asking for some scrapping of taxes. Will it come on in this budget? All right. So this is still JoyNews. You're watching your election headquarters.
Right. So at least we had the finance minister answering the question on the economy for now. So Sule, conclude your comments about the ability to survive, this after all the damage that has been done. And of course, I can imagine the NDC will be cutting the clips, will be picking all the sound bites, particularly from Canada, Japan, to use for the 2024 campaign.
It's already happened, but as a political party, I have no doubt that they'll be able to mobilize and come together. But for me, whether it is Ken or Bawumia or whoever, as I said before, in order to get policy credibility, anyone who is representing the NPP in this election has to find a way of sort of explaining themselves away from the mess under the Akufo-Addo leadership. Because, the Akufo-Addo record is not a record that any candidate can run on and be successful. And so even if it's going to be Dr. Bawumia has to almost sound like, look, it wasn't me, I wasn't the leader, I was just vice president. Vice president, I don't make these decisions, I don't make that. Now it is my turn and I am my own man now and I'm going to do A, B, C, D. That's the only way that any candidate from the NPP would appear to be credible. And that is what candidate Japan has started doing already. But of course, Bawumia as vice president, working under the president, cannot begin to say, look, things have gone the way they've gone. The economy is the way it is because, yes, I'm the head of the economic management team, but I don't have my way. Bawumia cannot do that. But once he becomes the candidate, I think he has to find a way, even if not saying it directly, insinuate that, look, if I were the one in charge, perhaps we wouldn't have gone to IMF. If I were the one in charge, corruption would not have been the way it is. If I were the one in charge, the economy would not have been managed the way it has been. Depreciation wouldn't have been what we have experienced. Inflation would have been less because there were this and that and that and that, and I know how to do it.
And that's why you think that Ken could have done a better job.
No, that is why I think in the eyes of the populace, in the eyes of the masses, people would feel, well, we believe in this rhetoric. And we are at a point where, Samson, we all know that people will say, we are tired of this MPP NDC thing. We are tired of this MPP NDC thing. So, and Ken appears to say, look, me, I've not been part of this. I've just been an MP. I've not been a minister before. I've not been in cabinet before. I am a businessman. I've created jobs. I've employed people.
So how like Ellen said earlier, Ellen Amadaku said earlier, how can he also take himself away? Because he sits on boards, his wife is on board, on a board. They say he has contracts in almost everywhere in the government sectors, in the cocoa, whatever board place, in the energy or wherever. He has contracts all over. So how can he say he's not part of it? And even the allegations that have come up, he says he was being approached with, is it $8 million, $800 million. Then Opare Ansah comes to say he rather was asking for $500 million contracts a year or so.
Yeah, so I think it was actually Opare Ansah who first made the accusation or allegation that he had met, and his demands was that he should be assured of a $500,000 contract worth of contracts annually. For me, that narrative was unbelievable because it's something that I wouldn't place any value on, because if I were somebody in his shoes, to what extent would I say, okay, if even I'm promised that yes, every year we'll give you $500 million contract, the person wins and that can be guaranteed. In the same vein, I don't think that I'll place any premium on Ken's response that no, they were rather offering him $800 million. These monies are really, really quite significant. The point about Ken also being a beneficiary or a participant in the mess, yes, you can make that claim, but of course, you cannot take it to the levels of being a cabinet minister or, there was a time, the fact that somebody serves on the graphic board, the graphic communications board, they say, oh, the person has been given an appointment by the government and therefore the person is actually in government.
All right.
I think you can stretch it to some levels. But Samson, I think just 1 minute. One thing that perhaps our media must do, and now that we run the fourth estate, I think when I say some of these things, it's about also encouraging my colleagues to also do something. The accusation about Ken having benefited from multiple contracts. From the Occupy Ghana case, we know that through the RTI law, we can basically get all the contract documents from the various organizations, Cocoa Board and so on and so forth. Why are we being told this and yet no evidence is being presented that, oh, look, this contract was awarded to Ken, that one too was awarded to Ken, and that was awarded to Ken. I think it will be good that we get to know all these, even beyond this primaries that is happening.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, there are others who are saying that For what he's represented as far as his rhetoric is concerned, there's too much debt on him that he shouldn't even have passed the vetting to come on the board. My guests in the studio have been disappointed at the caliber of people that the delegates have to choose from. Some commentators, people sending messages, are asking me to check what Yahweh Sako has been saying, and to confirm what Inusa and others, Ben, are talking about, the class of candidates that they are putting before the people now, and how the president has literally run down the NPP in the course of his tenure. We will take a break here, but Bernard wants to say something briefly. Yep.
No, I am amazed that the president and the vice president avoided any comment on the economy, and it has to take the Minister for Finance, who came and rather muddied the situation. Before COVID-19, how much money did Ghana borrow? Hadn't we reached the roofing point where it was evident that we're going to run into debt crisis? Did the IMF and World Bank not assure us that Ghana was going to have debt crisis? COVID-19 did not bring us the debt crisis. It was our overborrowing, because anytime we borrowed, companies benefited, and Ken as an individual benefited. So there was reason for which Ghana overborrowed. You borrowed for long-term development, but you had to pay short-term, and obviously you could not have escaped it. But this ranting all the time about COVID-19 being responsible, then you move, then they come and say Russia, Ukraine. Not so. And then now I'm sure they will add Israel and Palestine before they will come and add the Akosombo Dam spillage as responsible for even the further decline in our economy. But in all this, one of the things that probably we have not, or we lost count of, is that all the other candidates will be voting in their constituencies of origin. The vice president is the only one who doesn't have a constituency of origin. That should tell you that if politics, every politics is local, these people are more local politicians.
Okay.
And it's important that you must identify with your constituency of origin. Adaini will be voting somewhere in Mampong. Akoto will be voting somewhere in Kwadaso. Kennedy will be voting somewhere in Asen. No. Right. And so clearly, the vice president comes to vote in Accra, and then you say that he comes from a constituency.
In a group, always somebody emerges.
Yeah.
And
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
I'm talking about you going back to the fact that others have done 30 years, upwards of 20 years, and he has done only
No, because it was the argument that was made by Ellen, and I'm saying that if that is the number of years that somebody has done, then
they would have been vice president before him.
Yes, you understand. It means that is not an argument that you should be making about longevity within the NPP and your contribution to the NPP. Hey, at any point in time, somebody emerges. And I'm sure that today, Baumia will emerge.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Haj Suleiman says that Ken has been at the forefront of defending this government's record prior to his decision to contest. He defended this government to the hilt, including making the infamous statement of beating up Erastus. His turnaround, only at the time of deciding to contest, smacks of indecision and deception. That's sort of to Sule. We'll be right back.
When you're little, days are extremely busy. Work, traffic jams, meetings, conference calls. Luckily, our mom is here to take good care of us with day-by-day baby and day-by-day kids and their naturally active ingredients. Our skin is hydrated, soothed, and protected all day long. Yes.
Prepare for an exhilarating experience at the main fair of the 2023 EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center from Thursday, November 23rd to Sunday, November 26th, 2023. Doors will be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day to welcome you. This year, we are diving into the theme of home ownership, exploring the nuances between affordability, comfort, and luxury. Whether you're embarking on your home ownership journey or looking for upgrades, this fair is your destination for all things housing. Encounter a comprehensive assembly of stakeholders from Ghana's housing and construction sectors. Engage the experts across the spectrum of home creation and enhancement. The EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitat. Are built. Virtual security, complete security solution. DBS, your roof experts. Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design. Saint Gobain, making the world a better plan. Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments. The Kissington Heights, Airport City, Kumasi, by HDG Homes Limited.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And it is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN, everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert and Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. Duraplus, producers of quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tank, the only water storage tank with a level indicator. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. My Way, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex tanks, it is strong, it's tough. Flamingo, simply superior. That's Flamingo Paints. Snake Seed, self-employed enrollment drive. It's your future. So own it. Hubtel is everything you. And the Door Masters are proud sponsors of Newsfile. And Newsfile, once again, at the weekend, was crowned the best program on your radio. This is how many times we don't actually celebrate it here, so I seem to have forgotten how many times we continue to win it. Thank you very much. My guests who are helping us do this discussion: Bernard Ambatayala Mona, he's former national chairman, the PNC, and convener, Arise Ghana. Dr. Theo Champong is political risk analyst, and economist Suleiman Ibrahima is executive director, Media Foundation for West Africa, and Yunus Husseini is lawyer, former MP Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways, as well as later he was in charge of lands and natural resources. Just a couple of your messages, and then we will get to Baku and find out the situation there and what has to be done. It looks like Parliament this time will not do what happened in Ashaiman, where they have practically done nothing about the brutalities there. Gasma 1 says the temerity of Bawumia to put himself up to be voted for as NPP flag bearer and subsequently as president of Ghana after succeeding in destroying and impoverishing millions of Ghanaians via his incompetence and ineptitude is grotesque. Frank Osafo, which of these politicians have done a lot for the country as individuals will continue to suffer if we didn't change our mindsets? Kodua 25, African leaders play on religion and tribe when it's elections. Right, I've got some of your messages which I will be sharing in the course of this discussion, but just maybe just a couple more. This one says, okay, let me just go on and try and see how we are able to canvass the matters of Baku, because time is running out on us. But remember, this is your election headquarters. We'll continue on the NPP voting that is going on till the winner is known. Let's go to the Upper East region, and we're joined by Albert Sori, our regional correspondent, the GJA overall best in that region, just like Erasto Sosare Donko overall best for the country here. Albert, thanks for joining us. Hello, Albert.
You're welcome, sir.
Great. So what's the situation in Garu and Timpane? What do you know about what led to the arrest of the 8 and the brutality to many that has brought this discussion up?
Okay, so on the 24th of October, it was a Tuesday, the residents of Garu noticed that a black Toyota Land Cruiser had been driving around the township throughout the day. Now, many of the residents did not recognize the vehicle or its occupants, so they were wondering who these people were and why they were driving around township. But nobody had the confidence to confront them and ask them anything. Now, in the evening of that day, one of the youth of the area, while patrolling, or it was going somewhere, then he saw the same vehicle parked near one of the popular private schools in the area. At this time, it was late in the evening, so he called some other youth of the area, and he decided to get closer, knock on the window, and when they rolled down, he inquired to know who they were and why they had been seen driving around town throughout the day. And he was told that they were national security officials. At this time, they realized that there were 5 men in the vehicle. And so while he was questioning them, some other youth of the area joined him. And they asked that why was it that they hadn't been to the police station? If they say they are national security official, why did they not go to the police station? And why were they not in a hotel or a guest house and chose to park the vehicle at that place at that time of the night? Now, while they were doing this confrontation, they decided to go to the police station with them to find out if the police were aware of their presence and whether the police could identify them as national security operatives. So when they got there, the police took the men in, and after some questioning, the youth demanded to search, or that the vehicle be searched. Now, they found some weapons, guns. We cannot tell exactly the type of guns, but they were, weapons in the passenger seat of the vehicle. And so the youth demanded that the boot of the vehicle should also be searched. But these men said that the boot of the vehicle was locked, and so they could not open it. So in all this back and forth at the police station. The police must have decided that for the protection of the occupants of the vehicle, they will take them inside the police station. So the youth of the area continued to stay outside of the police station because they wanted to get to the bottom of who these people were. Remember, before this, there were incidents where vehicles had been arrested in Oko and its environs with guns and all of that. And sometimes the people also alleged to be national.
Albert's line just froze, but we're sure that we should establish back with him. There's another story, another side of the story that is being told, that actually they opened the boot and then there was a box and they asked that the box should be opened up, and that's where the occupants of the vehicle protested that it would not be opened up. The residents apparently suspected that that box contained ammunition, and that it potentially they were going to supply it to somebody or some group within the place. So since they would not allow it to be opened up, that is where the problem began. Albert, are you stable now? We seem to have lost Albert there. But let's start with Inusa Fuseni. You have heard what has happened, and now it's gone to Parliament, and thankfully the Speaker has ordered that the National Security Minister should appear before Parliament, and then afterwards they will know what will happen. Afenyo King led a process in the House yesterday, which we understand has led to the release of those that were arrested. Albert is back. Yes, Albert, you were just about concluding, getting to the end of the story. Hello, Albert. Unmute your mic, Albert.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, go on.
Yes, so that dawn, some people whom, as at now, they cannot identify, were firing gunshots towards the police station. We are told that the vehicle, that black Toyota Land Cruiser, was hit by several bullets and the tires even got inflated. So the next morning, they called in the military. The military escorted these people out of Garu, and later they came to tow the vehicle away. Now, the youth had inquired from the district chief executive, who was not in town at the time, whether he was aware or whether he had been briefed about the presence of these people, and he said he was not aware of them. So according to the youth, they decided that, well, once the military had been called in and these people were escorted out, if there were people who were up to something fishy, the security would definitely get to the bottom of it. And that was the end of the matter for that day, until the dawn of last Sunday, when the military moved into the town in that operation, where a number of civilians, in fact, dozens of civilians, were brutalized in that case.
Briefly, what can you say about the situation in Boku now?
So this morning, we are told that the 8 people who were arrested, now these 8 people were mostly leaders of the various areas who, from what I've been told, were only trying to calm down when they had been agitating. And so because of the leadership role they were playing, they were easily identified and arrested. We're told that this morning they were released yesterday after some charges were initially slapped on them, including assault on public officials, possession of weapons, and use of offensive weapons. These were the charges that were initially given them. But it appears that those charges have now been withdrawn and they've been sent home. They should be arriving in Garu sometime this afternoon. Okay. And so that is the latest on this.
All right, we are pressed for time. I would have had us have an extensive conversation. Maybe we should do that later to find out what exactly is happening in Boku still. Because it appears that whilst the conflicts remain unresolved, we seem to have forgotten about Boku, that there is a situation there. And we are not doing what has to be done to resolve and bring normalcy to that place of the country. Yes, Honorable Minister of Seni, I had asked earlier, what have you appreciated has gone on, and what do you think ought to be done?
Well, I think that there's a fundamental lack of trust, lack of citizens' trust in the intelligence, security and intelligence institutions of this country, in particular the personnel. There has been an ongoing rumor that these personnel are largely responsible for the supply of illegal weapons to the citizens to be used in the conflict. And I think that was a trigger. The Garu Tempane youth thought that these people were there on an illegal, unlawful mission of supplying weapons. And that box that you referred to, which was at the back of the car, could not be opened because they suspected that it contained weapons, and that those weapons, the people were there to deliver the weapons to another faction or to trade off the weapons. Now, but I have been listening attentively to Albert Sori, and I have not heard him say that the vehicle was fired at. I've actually heard him say that he accompanied the people of Garu accompanied those who were in the car, the occupants of the vehicle, to the police station.
Even the other story confirms the same thing, but it ends at the point where, whilst they were at the police station, and the refusal to open that box,
yes,
they said the youth, it was late in the night, so they decided that they would sit there and wait. So they were sitting there.
Yes.
And then the police was providing protection for the occupants.
Yes.
And the containment.
The containment.
But they said later they found that they seemed to be, the police appeared to allow them to move. And that is where the firing began and the car was shot at.
Good. So you see, again, fundamentally, a lack of trust. Public institutions were behaving in such a way as to raise the suspicion of the citizens.
That's one side of the story.
That's one side of the story. But what is shocking,
also corroborated by the MP Mahama Yaraga.
What is shocking and alarming is that the security minister, national security minister, justified the brutish and nasty assault.
He said they were shooting to kill the officers.
Yeah, he justified what they did, what the officers subsequently did, on an alleged, manhandling of the officers, and that they were being shot at. That is shocking, and that's why when Sori was speaking, I was listening attentively. Now, for whatever reason, the military have no authority. And let me state once again, this is a democratic country, it's a civilized country. The military, the security institutions have no authority on their own to exact punishment. They don't have. So what the military did when they returned to subject the people to that ill treatment was extrajudicial. Extrajudicial. And any person, any responsible citizen of this country must be condemning an extrajudicial approach to dealing with civilians. That can spiral out of control. And we've seen this spiral out of control. In 2006, Samson, you will recall, there was a gentleman, responsible and useful citizen of the North, Issa Mobla. He was wanted by the military. He responded. He drove his car to the police station to submit himself to the police. The police had no idea who was looking for him. They kept him at the counter bar. Subsequently, military men came and said they were looking for him. When they took him away, they returned his dead body. They returned his dead body. So, and we've seen where the military took the law into their own hands because they alleged that a civilian.
But only recently, a shaman.
A shaman. They don't have such authority. And for the Minister of National Security to justify what they had done.
The minister says there was an operation and the 5 men were deployed for counter-terrorism intelligence to Garu, and that was a critical and special operation. And they were attacked. That was on the Tuesday, October 24. Tuesday, October 24. The question now is, when they went back on 29th,
to attack them.
Now, on the 29th, what we are being told is that the operation on 29th was to retrieve AK-47 rifles that the youth had used to fire at the personnel.
And that's when they gathered them, laid them on the ground, and savagely beat them? Is that how you retrieve an AK-47?
You saw the operation in Asaiman.
It was embedded in their bodies? That they were beating them to extract the AK-47s? What ludicrous explanation is this? No, I'm saying that, yes, no one disputes the fact that there are intelligence operations going on every now and then. I mean, every now and then. That is within the legitimate duty of the national security institution. And so when people embark on national security assignment, we should allow them to operate. But national security officers must not assume for 1 minute that they have the authority to take the law into their own hands.
Bernard, so Tuesday, the 24th, and then they go, now military go there on the 29th, and they are seeking to retrieve weapons. That's for our protection, is that not?
Well, I can understand that a minister who comes out to say that civil society organizations, the media, and some individuals are speaking in such a way as to occasion a coup d'etat will find solace in coming to defend what is untenable by the military in the brutalization that we saw in Garu. Probably in a way to stall that coup d'etat that he has been dreaming about, for which reason he has to attack all of you and the civil society organizations. Otherwise, this kind of story should not come from the Minister for National Security. The second part is that if you listen to the national security and the initial statement they made, they said that they have restored calm by the combined operation of the military and national security operatives. Do you restore calm by just going to beat people who were sleeping? At the hour that the military entered Garu on the 29th, the Saturday to Sunday dawn from 2 a.m., how many people were roaming the streets of Garu? You went and you beat people. And you know, excitingly, NPP vice chairmen in the constituency have been beaten.
Mm-hmm. That's how it led to their release.
No, seriously. I spoke to many of them. I spoke to, I know that enclave very well. So I started speaking. I spoke to the MP of the area. I spoke to Basiru, deputy CEO for the YEA, and a number of people, and they were all livid about the actions of the military, and in particular, the pronouncement of the National Security Minister. We should not be taking situations like this for granted. For anything at all, it is the same national security that said that see something, say something, and do something. The people of Garu, they saw something.
Suspected
right?
that there was
they did something, and they said something. Will they have to be beaten and punished? Next time, they will see something and ignore.
See something, say something.
And do something.
No,
they did something. Let me tell you. They did something by saying that if you are in the police, if you are national security operatives, have you responded or reported to the immediate command in our jurisdiction? That is our police. So if you are national security operatives, please get to the police station. More importantly, haven't we, all of us, don't we know that national security persons parading as national security persons have been killed in the Baku conflict, fighting for one group?
So they agreed, and they followed them to the police station.
So they followed them to the police station. But you see, when they have this suspicion, Samson, extend the conversation a little bit. When they had this suspicion, the people of Garu alone did not take it as their battle. So they started calling other communities. That look, these people all of a sudden say they are national security. But don't forget that in the past, some of the people that we managed to get were claiming that they are national security only to be fighting for one group. So if they are national securities, all the other youths from the surrounding communities were coming. So actually the Boku, the Garu people, they had gone to the police station and they had left the police station. So when the other people coming from Boku and other places to come and see who these national security persons were, they were told that, look, they put them in the custody of the police. But the people have gone, and that the vehicle, they could not allow them to open. And they said, if you leave them in the care of the police, we cannot trust them. They will come and take their vehicle and go. And that is where they vandalized the vehicle and, of course, shot into the tires of the vehicle so as to immobilize the vehicle so that it cannot move. So in their view, they were still protecting themselves against. This is not anything that you or any of the security operatives could not have gone to the ground to go and check. Then on Tuesday, you leave and go. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 6 days. On the 6th day, you go and round the youth, go into people's rooms, beat them. In some instances, we are even told that people's monies and other things were stolen.
The chief's palace.
You go there and did what you have to do. And you come and tell us that you did this to do counter-terrorism. If there was anything...
So that one they were doing to retrieve the AK-47s.
But common intelligence, the common intelligence would have told you that those who came to fire were not from Garu. They were those who were now coming from other communities to come and see the people who said that they were national security operatives, because national security has now been used to destroy and to attack the people of that enclave. So that suspicion that Inosa is talking about, that national security is of no value today, that party boys are carried into national security and they are being used to torment and to frustrate people, is responsible for the decay in security. That is why when Emil Short finished their Yawaso West Wagon report, they said that there is no coordination between and among our security. Yeah. In this instance, it is evident.
It's very abrupt.
In this instance, it's evident.
What should happen?
Obviously, look.
The minister has been summoned to appear before Parliament.
What is the minister going to say? He will go and say that it's national
he will
security.
He will read the letter to them.
He will say that it's national security
So
and that national security issues cannot be discussed.
What should happen?
So they will go into conclave. And at the end of the day, nothing will happen. But the young people in Boku have been beaten. And when I spoke to somebody, he said, look, they were struggling to even get the people to go and join Baomia in Upper East for his rally. And now this thing has come, and most of them within the Garu area say that they will not go. So evidently, look, there is a decay in our national security architecture. Yeah. And under normal circumstances, Kandapa should have been resigning or be fired by now.
The things that people resign over, when you follow the news in the UK and elsewhere, you'll be misled. Yeah. This country doesn't happen that way. Let's go to Sule. Now, Sule, is it not a good reason? The minister is saying this happened, and we know that people use guns, AK-47s, and we know, as a matter of fact, there has been a lot of surveys that have shown that the Boku is a place where there's a lot of guns, and they are going to retrieve the guns. What's wrong with doing that?
Well, Samson, I think that this conversation is unfortunate for me that there is just a little time to deal with this matter. Now, what happened in Garu has to be put in a certain context. I think that colleagues have already condemned what happened, and therefore I wouldn't want to hammer on that much. It's absolutely condemnable. Now, two things. One is that Garu is part of the Kusag traditional area. So when we talk about Boku is a town, is the capital of the area, but we all know that the conflict in the area has now almost engulfed the entire Kusag area. In fact, you know very well that Vehicles from Boku have been attacked in Walewale. People have been attacked in Nalerigu, and this is northeast. And all these attacks are related to the Boku conflict. So of course, the national security knows very well that the matter in Garu cannot be isolated or distinguished from what has been happening in Boku. Now, why would people in Garu see a car and be suspicious? First of all, a V8 vehicle. This is a community that V8 vehicles are not common. It's not like Accra here where you see a V8 and it's a normal. So they see it and they have suspicion. They go to the car and ask, as Albert was narrating. Now, Samson, the truth of the matter is that there has been a complete state failure. What many believe is just the government playing tricks on the people of Boku in terms of the resolution of this conflict, and the government just not being serious about resolving the matter. Now, in February this year, there was this installation of a supposed chief in Nalerigu. The government quickly came out and said what had happened was illegal, and the state was going to ensure that the right things were done because what had happened could breach the security or escalate the security situation in Boku. As we speak, the state and the government, for that matter, has refused to execute the warrant issued by the Bolgatanga High Court. And as it is, what it means is that the person who was purported to have been ensconced as a chief is still walking a free man. Initially, they said, oh, they couldn't find him. Later, there were pictures that emerged, and he was posing, taking photographs with police officers. When this incident happened, the initial suspicion by the people was that there was going to be a Damba celebration in Boku by the Mamprusi community in Boku. And then there are always rumors that, oh, they will smuggle the chief in. People need to be alert. They will smuggle the chief in. So when the car was first seen, in relation to the Damba, the suspicion that, according to the people on the ground, was that, oh, they are trying to get the supposed chief from Nalerigu through to Boku, and so we need to be alert. And that was their initial suspicion that they engaged. Now, when they engaged them, people told them, well, they are national security people. And I think they did the right thing by saying, okay, let's go to the police. They got to the police, the people established themselves as national security people. So you would say that should be the end of it. Why would the people in the area want to confront national security personnel? But I think it is Bernard who has made the point that in the ongoing Boku conflict, there have been several instances where people have been reported as national security personnel, and there are denials until some of them have been killed in the battlefield as warriors for one side of the conflict. And the classic case is a guy who was called Fatah Nambe. Before his death, there had been petitions to national security that, look, we suspect that this person who is the national security officer is supporting one side of the conflict and actions must be taken. It was always denied until one day he was shot on the battlefield as a warrior on behalf of one side. There was an incident where persons believed to be national security people wore military fatigue and went to one community and slaughtered about 13 women and children. Then we had this recent incident where the military shot and killed 9 unarmed persons who were in their garden, including a young child. So with all these developments, how do you expect that when people just identify themselves that, oh, we are national security people, then people should fold up their arms and say, oh, they are national security people? I think it is the state failure and the ongoing playing of games, with the situation in Boku. Because how can the government and the state say that, look, we haven't been able to execute the court warrant issued for the arrest of someone? We have a situation where His Excellency, the President himself says, there is a Boku Naba who has been duly gazetted and we recognized him. The Minister for Interior says there's a Boku Naba who is duly recognized and gazetted. The former immediate past chieftaincy minister says there's a Boku Naba who has been gazetted and is legally installed. All of them have said there is a Supreme Court ruling that affirms who is a Boku Naba, and that Boku Naba is the current Boku Naba, Zugrana Abubrago Asegri Azoka. So the question is, how then do we have a situation where some people say we are fighting for chieftaincy, and then we say, oh, there's a chieftaincy conflict, and we've deployed the military to be there, and for months the state is spending huge amounts of money maintaining security in the area. Why are we failing to enforce basically the law? I think the question in Boku now and what happened in Garu is a consequence of complete state failure complete failure on the part of the state to basically enforce our laws. What is happening in Boku is a state of impunity. I think it was Bernard who also said that, so the next time they see a vehicle, as the Ministry of National Security say, when you see something, say something. They will see something and they won't say something. What I think is the case is that in the context of the Boku conflict, this see something, say something will never cease. When there is anything suspicious, it would be raised. What happened would rather radicalize the people further, rather than trying to maybe resolve the matter.
I'm sorry, Sule can't hear me again, but our time is up. I need to get through at least just a minute. Thinking through and listening to everybody else on this issue, what do you think should happen, Theo?
Unfortunately, I'm not a security expert, so I'll leave that to the matters that way. But clearly, there's an issue with trust in institutions and trust, especially in the military. And I think Suleimana and others have done enough justice to that. But quickly, for the 1 minute I have, I kind of want to reference a couple of points that have been made, particularly the interview that the finance minister just made. Because for me, again, it's a bit worrying because he's still trumpeting this Russia-Ukraine COVID thing, and it doesn't look as though they're even admitting that they have caused a major problem, and they are part, to blame for all of that. To the extent that he made reference to a point being the quote-unquote resilience of Ghanaians. Which resilience? Impoverishing Ghanaians with haircuts and domestic debt exchange and all of that. I think, they should give Ghanaians a bit of credit and, understand and appreciate that a lot of things have changed. And if they really want to break the 8, it cannot be with that sort of posture. Over.
All right. Dr. Theo Champong, thank you very much. He's political risk analyst and economist. Thank you so very much for your insights. And Suleiman Abrahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, seem to have read quite deeply and has better information on the Boku situation. We should be able to dedicate some time to look at that. We are unable to look at our corruption matter once again. Yunus Hussaini is lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways, also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Bernard Ambatayala Mona is former national chairman of the PNC and convener, Arise Ghana. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini, the election headquarters squad, the best that you can ever have, are still here to take you through until the last vote is counted and the winner of the primaries for the NPP's flag bearership is known. Evans, all of them, they are here. Mama V, Abuaje, and all of the newly minted lawyer. They are all here. Have a good afternoon.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner. Where Duraplast goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as ColorLink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough?
Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them.
Hello there. To provide timely information and to explain educational reforms and to discuss school models and interventions, the Ministry of Education, in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal, presents to you the first ever education TV talk show, the Edu Talk Show. The Edu Talk Show keeps you informed and updated on trends in the world of education.
The Ghanaian teacher is so versatile. Provide him the opportunity, train him, and that teacher will perform wonders.
Where are the women? They're doing very well academically, but they're not in the sciences and all of that. So technology is missing a lot more women that they could have had.
You need to tell the parents, at the moment, what you are getting is covering only an aspect of your child's education. And therefore, it's very difficult for you to make any decision with the limited information you have.
We still have more to do when it comes to safe school.
So join us as we speak to our guests on reforms taking place in Ghana's education sector. My name is Blessed Sogan, and I am your host.